Seattle Sports Union and our happy hour. With me today is Nathan Savage. My name is Abraham DeWeese, and we'll be talking a little bit of Mariners baseball. By the way, guys, today is Friday the 16th, and the NCAA tournament is on. In fact, it's on right here. So if you see us glancing over there, it's because Charleston is within 1 point of Auburn, Auburn being the 4th seed in the NCAA tournament. But we're talking baseball, not basketball, and we're talking a little bit about the Mariners, and we'll also go around the major leagues a little bit as well. Nathan, I know you follow these guys every day, and I know you're about as happy as I am with all the injuries, as in not happy at all.
Yeah.
I wrote down the list of injuries, and I had Ben Gamble, Ryan Healy, Hisashi Iwakuma, Nelson Cruz, and the list, that's what I wrote on Monday.
Yeah.
The list has grown from there.
Yeah.
Who am I missing from that? There's some other people too. There's
Iron Man,
Cano.
right? Ichiro never gets really injured
Ichiro.
ever. He's
Yep.
injured. Cano's injured. Felix is injured. Gonzalez, both him and Gonzalez got hit by line drives, so they're injured. They should all be coming back in time for the season, and then Heredia came back today.
So we were thinking that this was 2017 was a one-time disaster. All the pitchers got injured. We set the record for most pitchers started in a season.
Yeah.
Most pitchers used something to that effect.
Most pitchers use.
High 30s.
I think even 41.
In the 40s?
Something like that.
Wow, jeez. I mean, don't forget, guys. Back in 2001, we only started 5 pitchers. Only time that's happened in modern era baseball, right?
Yeah, and I mean, results kind of speak for themselves when you have to start the same 5. Yeah.
Used 41 pitchers. Yeah, terrible season. Used 5 pitchers. Great season.
Yeah.
Which one of these injuries are you worried about? Which one of these injuries are you going to tell our fans out there, watch out for this? It's not a good sign.
I try my hardest to be a little bit of a silver lining with this and try to say some of this is maybe they're being extra careful after last year. It's spring training, soft tissue injuries. They just want to shut it down so it doesn't linger. But honestly, probably for me, the most worrisome might be Nelson Cruz. Kind of dealing with something similar to a little bit what he dealt with last year. Obviously, Felix and Gonzalez, that's very scary. Huge deal if we start losing starters again. But they are kind of in freak situations with getting hit by line drives, and you can't expect that every week. But definitely, I'd say for me, it's Nelson Cruz that I'm the most worried about.
Iwakuma, are we done with Iwakuma? Is this it?
I want to say no, but I think the writing was a little bit on the wall when the Dodgers had him fail that physical a couple years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, the Mariners got a good season out of him.
Yeah. I think just there's something there that they saw in the physical in his arm that showed that his lifespan was going to be a little bit shorter than they were willing to offer him.
I see what you're saying. They're not going to give him the big money. Oh, and the big dunk. Was that Auburn?
Yeah.
That was War Eagles right there. Auburn just took the lead 51-50 over Charleston. 5:02 left in the game. Whoa. This one's a seesaw battle. Who's impressed you this spring?
Well, yesterday, Diaz had an immaculate inning, which is throwing 9 pitches, all strikes, striking out the side.
Wait, he went
strike, strikeout, strikeout. Only threw 9 pitches and struck out the side. So yeah.
It was the Athletics though.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, he's definitely looked good. I think he's actually gained a little bit of weight. I think
is that a good thing or a bad?
Yeah, he's a pretty skinny guy, so maybe it's helping him with his velocity a little bit, even though he already was, triple digits pretty consistently. But he's just seemed to be really on it. And then obviously, D. Gordon threw someone out at third base. Obviously, he's from center field.
Nice.
Yeah, so not like the Ichiro from right field, but his arm looks a little bit better than what we were worried about as him being a second baseman. He's hitting the ball really well. And then biggest surprise for me probably is Vogelbach is actually killing it. I think he had a double and a homer today. So.
I want to say Vogelbach's pushing 400 in average. Vogelbach, of course, coming over from the Cubs, in a trade for Mike Montgomery, a trade that I thought was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I hated
pathetic.
it. Yeah.
But could he end up supplanting Ryan Healy? Could Healy be the next? Could Vogelbach be the next Lou Gehrig to Healy's Wally Pipp?
Honestly, I think if it happens, that means it's a good thing. I think Healy will be productive. So if Vogelbach supplants him, that means Vogelbach will be doing that much better. I guess a similar situation would be like Russ when he kind of supplanted. Like we spent $12 million on that quarterback.
Oh, you mean the
Matt
Seahawks?
Flynn.
Yeah, Russell Wilson supplanted Matt Flynn.
Yeah, and so that was like, yeah, we spent $12 million on Matt Flynn, but now we have Russell Wilson. He looks amazing. You can't really be that upset if someone like Vogelbach supplants Healy. But I'm honestly pretty excited to watch Healy play. It's a huge bummer that he's been out all of spring training, but I really like what he brings to the team. So.
Who else has impressed you?
Honestly, I really liked, like, Paxton started out really slow. Obviously, it's tough to tell going season to season, and maybe he was working on pitches, but his last outing, he did pretty solid, and I think more and more the Mariners are going to need Paxton to dominate. So.
I checked the box scores a couple days ago. Ichiro didn't have a hit. Hasn't had a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Does he even make this team? Does he come north?
Yeah, he makes the team. He, I mean, I'm not in Cervais or DePoto's head, but there's almost a 100% chance he makes the team. He's one of those guys. Even in his rookie year, he does weird things in spring training. He'll test out just hitting ground balls to the left side of the infield or that kind of thing. So obviously, I'd like him to have a few more hits than zero, but I think with spring training and especially with Ichiro, it'll look a little bit different once the season starts.
Who on this team do you think who on this team do you think they're going to send down to AAA that you think should make the team?
I think they're going to send down Andrew Moore.
That's kind of who I was thinking too. Andrew Moore, the starting pitcher.
He honestly, it's so tough with him because he'll have a really good start and then he'll seem every once in a while to kind of deteriorate. I just feel like it's a bad sign for the Mariners if Moore hangs around spring training and continues to struggle and then is in AAA for a long period of time, because I think they do need him to either be a form of depth or just, I think, to be like a sixth starter for them all year long. So I'm a little bit nervous about him for sure.
Yeah, there are guys who, have been at the AAA level long enough. They need to come up and either make it or not make it, right? Yeah. Gonna talk a little bit about Japanese baseball. That's our topic of the day. Japanese players in baseball. Wrote down the name here. Masanori Mako. I'm gonna brutalize this one. Masanori Murakami was the first Japanese player in baseball, but that was back in the 60s, and I think that was just a flyer. It would take 20 more years to get 30 more, 20, 60, 70, 30 more years before we'd see any more Japanese players back. Hideo Nomo of the Dodgers was the first one to make that jump. Are we 20 years later from Hideo Nomo, further ahead, further behind, or right about where you expected us to be in importing Japanese players?
I'm definitely ahead. Not probably as far a stride as maybe I would think. It's not like we're looking at rosters and seeing relief pitchers, starters, like pretty continuously there. But yeah, definitely compared to them. I mean, Nomo came in and basically, I think a lot of people thought he wouldn't be able to cut it in baseball, and he really opened that door and actually was pretty dominant. So his career wasn't super long, but I think once the door opens, you expect it to maybe open a little wider than it has, but definitely an improvement.
Nomo came in and knocked it out. So did Ichiro, obviously. plenty of others. Hideo, I'm sorry, not Hideo. Daisuke, and who was the outfielder for the Yankees?
That's probably my Matsui.
Matsui, yeah. I mean, those are some of the big names, but there's some smaller names too, who lent their, put their stamp on the MLB. And that we were talking about Iwakuma, definitely the Bear. He's been important. Kazuhiro Sasaki was a very good closer for the Mariners.
Oh yeah.
There were some disappointments too, though, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, so it seems like what happens with these pitchers too from Japan is they come in a little bit in their prime, and they get these just insane deals. It costs money. First of all, that you have to spend money to like pay off the team to have the players come to the U.S. And then on top of that, they get pretty big contracts. So like I think even though Daisuke, like you said, did pretty well, he kind of had injury problems, and he wasn't worth like what Boston gave him for sure.
Right. I was thinking of there was a Mariner, Max Suzuki. He didn't turn out to be everything.
Yeah. So a lot of position players too, for sure, have struggled.
But I think that might have been kind of not Kurt Suzuki, the catcher.
Oh,
Max Suzuki was a pitcher.
Okay.
Never made it to the majors, So, no, Kurt Suzuki I thought was really good. Is he Japanese or American though?
I think he was maybe American.
I think he's American, yeah, but really good catcher. Or at least, I remember an era in Mariners baseball where we had no catchers. Zunino's finally turning around, but there was a good 15 years of awfulness at that position.
Yeah, after Dan Wilson.
Yeah. A bunch of Miguel Olivos, that type of people. Actually, didn't he lead the Mariners in home runs one year with 19?
I mean, that time 19 seems pretty good for that Mariners team, so that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mid 2000s, yeah. How much of the problems with I'm going to call it problems with importing Japanese players? Because let me frame this. I think there's a problem. Japanese players have to play 6-7 years before they can come over.
Yeah.
That's a problem. How do we mitigate that? What can the MLB do to get the good players in here and not have them waste the best years of their career in Japan?
Yeah, that's it's kind of started a little bit with Otani. He's only 23, so I think he was either 4 or 5 years. So he came over a little bit early, and they allowed that to happen.
I wonder why.
I think hopefully they're the perception there is shifting a little bit. I think a lot of players from the U.S. are actually heading back to Japan as their career kind of winds down. So I think they kind of get to see them from there. And I think Japan has kind of shifted away from just the 100% we want them in our primes, we want to build them up in Japan, and then they go to the U.S. to a little bit more of build up in Japan, go through their national team, and then a little bit younger, send them over to the U.S., maybe 10 years, something like that, and then have them come back to Japan, and then in the twilight of their career kind of play it for them. So.
Gotcha. And that benefits the Japanese teams more?
It doesn't really, and it definitely doesn't benefit, I don't think, the Japanese teams, but it does in general. I think they understand that the MLB is where kind of the top players in the world are, and they really want to show themselves on that national stage of how competitive they can be. And I think they're understanding that sending someone like Daisuke over after the amount of innings that he pitched on his arm doesn't give the best impression of how good of a pitcher he was once he comes to the U.S. and his arm starts to kind of fall apart.
I see. I kind of wonder also if along those lines, if you send over a player who's ready to make it on the big stage, you're getting a certain amount of money in return for that. You mentioned that earlier.
Oh yeah.
In soccer, it's called allocation money or transfer money.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to turn down the money if you know the player is going to leave in 2 years anyway, right?
Yes, I think especially as well. Maybe part of the Otani, I'm not 100% sure, but I think maybe part of it is the team that he was on was getting close to being done with his contract. And it's actually the team themselves that gets like a lot of the money that they're on.
That's what I was thinking.
That might be part of it as well, that they wanted to kind of get that money before there was a chance that he'd go to a different team in Japan. So,
What are the differences in the actual game? I know that they play fewer games in Japan. Are there any other differences?
It's pretty obvious. Like, I mean, something like last year where in the majors just huge amount of home runs were being hit. I think the
Are
style
there fewer
is
home runs in Japan?
It's more of the style of in the U.S. right now. It's leading towards more of like in the MLB, a lot of strikeout, home run kind of like options with hitters. I think in Japan they're still wanting contact, wanting to hit the ball. Even like someone like Ichiro slapped the ball. I mean, it's starting to grow, but definitely a home run is much more of a rarity in Japan, I would say, than in the U.S. Yeah.
Is there a greater emphasis on small ball, or is it just a different type of game altogether?
I think definitely small ball is a good way of describing it. Something like you'd see in the NL where there's more bunting, or we're kind of more moving along hitters. I'm not even sure about shifting or those kind of things, if those have translated. I hope probably they have, because it seems like that makes a lot of sense to do shifts.
How does that work out? I mean, like the shift in baseball, we've seen it for like 5 or 6 years. There's always been a shift in baseball, but I mean, there has been a philosophy recently where you do it often and force the other team to prove you wrong. What have we seen in the last 4 or 5 years that the shift, has it impacted the game? Have we seen it change the game, or is it just a lot of ooey?
I think it's the sabermetrics, right? So they'll look at a hitter, see kind of where he's hitting a ball. Obviously, just in general, right, if you have a left-handed batter, they kind of have a little bit of advantage on the infield, because on the right side of the infield, the first baseman has to cover the bag. So there's a lot bigger gap, where on the left side for righties, there's a shortstop there, and there's a third baseman that could kind of come off the bag. So you have kind of more of that middle in the gap there covered, where you just have the second baseman on the right side. So they kind of, on lefties particularly, they've kind of shifted more people out to the right side.
That's the why and that's the how. But what's the net gain? I mean, a Kyle Seager, who is garners that kind of attention, ends up getting the shift. Is it killing his career?
I don't think it's necessarily killing his career, but it's forcing him to do things like every once in a while in the blue moon he'll bunt down the third base line, or it's forcing hitters. I think, in my opinion, I like it because it's forcing hitters, like, you can't just go up to the plate, hit for power every time. You have to be able to take advantage of where people are on the field. You have to be able to hit the opposite way. Mm-hmm. And honestly, for me, it's just more of a progression of more professional and more advanced batting. And I just honestly think it's a constant transition that the pitcher always has to make against the hitter, and this is a little more of that hitter having to kind of make transitions in the way they hit, or to do things like avoid the shift. So,
well, okay, so you like it because it creates a better game, or at least it shows more skill.
Yeah,
the skilled players get.
Yeah, and it just honestly, I think things can get stagnant sometimes, and we're seeing right now, you're seeing how much three-point shooting is happening, and some people really like that, some people don't, but I do like seeing the transition in the game and not just having every year it look the same way. I like changes, and I like improvements or regression, kind of thing.
Okay, there's two things going on in minor league baseball right now. One is they're going to have a clock for the pitch. What is it called?
Yeah, they'll have a pitch clock.
Pitch clock, yeah, okay. And then 2 extra innings, they're going to have a runner start at second base. Do you like the MLB exploring these kind of things?
I like it. I mean, I have kind of differing opinions, especially on extra inning rule.
Okay, let's start with the pitch clock.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the pitch clock there?
There's it's kind of similar to, like, we're watching basketball here, but it's similar to free throws at the free throw line. I think it should be that kind of rule where it's there. Like, there's a pitcher right now for the Dodgers that's Baez, that's just insanely painful to watch. He takes about, on average, 30 seconds to throw a pitch. I think the MLB average is like 22 or something like that. So
really,
he's insanely slow. It's painful. Anytime he comes in, I like the Dodgers, so it's nice to have him in. He's a pretty good reliever, but you almost wish he doesn't come in because he pitches so slow. And I think there they need to have some kind of ability of the umpire to say, hey, come on, like 20 seconds, 15, whatever it needs to be. I don't like the overall, though, like the exact time. Like, if a pitcher is 2 seconds later than the pitch clock, do they get a ball? Like, what happens there? I think I like the discretion of the umpire, and obviously there's cases where that just can't go on that long with someone like that.
Right, but if you leave it to the discretion of the umpire, don't you run into an issue where people say it's subjective and that umpire just hates this pitcher and that's why he's enforcing this rule?
Yeah, that is actually true. So, I mean, I think it's a conversation that the MLB is trying to have, because games are taking like 4 hours, and they are finding it out. We'll see what happens with the pitch count. I'm not 100% sold for sure, and exactly, like, it'll be hard to figure out what the punishment will be, or like.
Now that's just addressing one problem. Aren't there a lot of batters who step out of the batting box?
Yeah,
often.
That one they've tried to fix a little bit last year.
What'd they do?
They wouldn't allow, like, as many, like someone like Cano, right, or Derek Jeter. Every single time they'd fix their batting gloves. I mean, Nomar Garcia-Parra was actually a really good example too. He'd like tap his feet, fix his batting gloves, look around for a little bit, refix his batting gloves. So they kind of stopped with a little bit of that. Like, not as many timeouts were called, where like Derek Jeter would always have his hand up at the umpire. They didn't really allow that last year. And there were times where a batter would ask for time and not get it. So
what's the penalty? Do they just give up a strike? Is that?
They just don't allow the batter to stop. I mean, I don't think any big ever got that far. I'm not really sure, but I don't think any batter ignored the umpire saying, hey, speed it up, get back into the batter's box or something like that. I know definitely towards the end of the year it started to regress a little bit. They started to stopped being as strict, but I think it's just little by little getting that idea into the batter's mind that you just can't hang around all day.
All right, so you don't sound totally opposed to this. You just rather it be enforced by the ump when somebody's out of control.
I think, yeah. I think in general, I mean, maybe I don't have the biggest problem watching a long game, I guess, because sometimes there is more hitting going on or in those longer games. But I do understand that for like a casual fan on a Tuesday or something, the Mariners game starts at 7. You can't really try to hang out there till 11 and watch the whole game. So.
Yeah, it took me until I got a little bit older to understand why fans go home at 10 o'clock. And yeah, when you got to be in work 8 o'clock, it's a problem. People who live in Bremerton have to take the ferry.
Yeah.
We're turning into more of a bus-based society, so people have to catch their bus home. And you don't want to be honest. Like, I don't really want to be on the streets down there and down there by the stadiums at 1 in the morning. You know, it's
it's definitely, especially on certain times of the year, like certain games, like it can get pretty hectic down there.
Yeah, when I was a dumb teenager, like no big deal, but you get a little bit older, you don't want that. Now let's go to what you're. I could tell in your voice inflection you're not excited about this next subject, and that is putting a man on second in extra innings for each team. Something to help increase scoring.
Yeah.
In extra innings.
Yeah.
Not a big fan? They did it in the WBC last year.
Yeah, it's just, what happens, right? You have a guy starting on second, the pitcher gives up one hit. Is that really baseball? You lose a game off a single. I think even the fact that it's to start, maybe I understand like a 17-inning game is a pretty long game. That's, especially during the regular season, that's tough. But maybe after the 12th inning or the 15th inning or something, I just think that to all of a sudden go through 9 innings playing one game and to almost completely change the game going into the bottom of the or into the extra innings is just crazy. Like, what happens if you just bunt and then all of a sudden there's one out, there's a guy on third, you can run it, use a squeeze play or whatever it needs to happen. It just, to me, seems like it's a different game.
Stylistically, baseball is unique in that it is the only major sport that I can think of that allows you to just keep playing till the best man wins.
Yeah.
Run out of players, you run out of players.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to win, darn it.
Yeah.
NFL, you can have a tie. College football, and I argue with Matt Page over this, one of our SSU writers, all the freaking time. College football, they've made their playoffs such that it doesn't even resemble an actual game.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
the 25-yard line.
Yeah, the 25-yard line. It's, in my opinion, it's well, first of all, it's not as egregious as soccer, but in my opinion, it's like having a slam dunk contest to determine who won the game.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's ridiculous. Ooh, actually, basketball, you just keep playing overtime. But that's.
But it's just, I think it's tough too, especially with something like baseball, where it's just such a finite game. I think it's similar to something like what if you played golf, right? They're so fine-tuned. They're hitting the ball so far and so accurate, and then all of a sudden you say, well, you've played the playoff, you're still tied, let's have a putting competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or let's just say, okay, you're tied after the 18th, we're going to do one more, and you're going to use your sand wedge and hit out of the
exactly. Like a chip off,
trap,
putt off, yeah.
Or, and it's like, okay, that's an aspect of the game, but it's not the full aspect of it.
Yeah, I definitely think at least like soccer, right, that's a huge shift in the game with the shootout, but they still do go through 2 overtimes.
They go through 2 overtimes, but they're not full periods, and that bugs me.
Yeah.
The 2 and also it's not golden goal.
Yeah.
Up until I want to say 2000-ish, they used to have in soccer what was called golden goal, and that means the first goal wins the game. Hockey has it, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with the NFL when they had first touchdown wins.
Yeah.
Doesn't bother me. It's sports. It's strange how they manipulate the game because they think the fans will love it. They have the man on second because they think the fans are going to love it.
Yeah.
But it seems like fake drama.
I mean, it happened right in the NFL where they kind of shifted. I just think the first time a fan base has to deal with that, like say Boston Yankees game for the AL pennant, 7th game, runner on second base, and a single wins the series. Like I think people aren't going to be as happy about it when they watch that happen.
Yeah.
I think we'll see what happens in the minors. I don't see that getting implemented, but.
Actually, I'm going to be honest. I think for the minors, go ahead and use it.
Yeah.
Because the problem with extra inning games is it burns out arms, and the big league team probably doesn't want their best pitchers in the minors getting burnt out.
Yeah.
Use it in the All-Star game by all means.
Yeah, that's a good. I think like even last year was dangerous before Cano walked it off. That.
Yeah.
What would a 17-inning All-Star game look like?
Yeah, and when that happened in, what was it, 2002? When there was a tie in Milwaukee, and Bud Selig said, tie game. I'm one of the few people that was like, okay, fine, tie game, big deal. So effing, it's an exhibition game. It doesn't matter, no.
Yeah.
I would say even the minor leagues, if you want to tie, that's fine. people got to go home.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, that was one, like, I'd almost rather have it be a tie game. Like, during the regular season, you play 162 games. There might be a game where it ends up tied, or you go to, like, the 12th inning, and then after that, call it a tie game.
I think for minor leagues, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, minor leagues, just give them 3 extra innings and
Yeah.
call it good. Or if you want to have the man on second, that's fine too. Just get people home. But majors, I'm down for the shot clock or the pitch clock. I'm definitely not down for the man on second. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Keep it in the WBC. Keep it at the All-Star game. Lower level minor, or actually any level minors. I don't care. College. Have it in college. They got aluminum bats in college for you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, we'll see. They are actually in the majors implementing though a couple things this year. Like they're doing, I guess, decreased commercial breaks in between half innings. They're lowering
How
that
is?
time.
Whoa! Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
How is that happening?
I don't know what decrease means or the amount of time, but yeah, that seems kind of contrary to making money, I guess, in the league. But it seems like they're going to decrease the time between half innings. Like, pitchers are going to be able to there used to be a minimum rule when you came into the game of how many pitches you had to throw when you're warming up.
Right.
That's gone now, it sounds like. So
Well, that's a problem. Don't.
I think it's more like knowing that you can do that out in the bullpen these days, and then I'm a little bit nervous about all these too, but I would rather them do like these small incremental shifts than all of a sudden for 150 years or
Yeah.
a super long time the way the game is played, like a huge shift.
A
like
huge
that.
change.
So,
Yeah. Well, hell, I'll just ask you about the designated hitter. That was a huge change. It's been 50 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
50 years since that came into play? 40 years? I can't remember what it was. But that had a lot of people bugged, and it still has people bugged. But after a while, don't things just turn into normalcy?
I think like when you start having generations that grow up with it, they didn't grow up with it not being there, so then it's harder for them to be upset about it.
Yeah.
I know for me, since I've watched baseball, there's been a DH, so it's not as crazy, but yeah, I think in the long run, but I'm sure 50 years ago I would have been very upset
Freaked out.
on my high horse about the DH ruining the fundamentals of baseball. Yeah.
You would have got up off your couch and changed the dial like this.
Yeah.
Or
switch the radio a little bit.
Yeah. But but I mean, there's been some good rules that have changed the sport, right, of baseball.
Oh yeah.
The wild card. Let me be very careful with this. The first wild card I thought was incredibly good for the game. This second one, I'm not so certain. What's your opinion on those? I mean, that really changed the game a lot.
Yeah, I just love March Madness going on. I love one and done. Obviously, it's a little bit unfair, I guess, for the first wild card before they got to be right in the playoffs there and have a series. There was a year, I think, where the Pirates were a pretty solid team. I think they were the first wild card. Everyone was talking about them about being like a World Series favorite.
With Andrew McCutchen?
Yeah. And I think they played the Reds maybe or Cardinals, some team like that, and lost. And they finally got back to the playoffs, lost in one game. I think that's tough, but I love watching. As a fan, I understand as a team it might be tough, but as a fan, I definitely like watching the one and done game. So.
All right. Let's go around baseball a little bit. Well, we kind of have been. I mean, I'm heading down to Vegas tomorrow. And I'm going to see myself some Cubs versus Indians baseball. And that's going to be down there where the Vegas 51s play.
Okay. Is that tomorrow? Or?
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow, actually.
Is everyone going to wear green for
I'm going
Patrick's Day?
to, you know what, guys? I'm going to be wearing my Mariners gear.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I think that's like aqua, right? So that's got a little bit of green in it.
Kind of.
So.
I mean, I do have my St. Patrick's Day and actually Las Vegas bracelets on here. So, No. I mean, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna enjoy it, but I want your opinion. Cubs versus Indians was the series 2 years ago, the 2016 series. What am I going to see with those two teams? Is this a World Series preview for 2018?
I mean, if you just went with the end of last year, I thought this would be a return to the World Series for the Indians, right? Like they won 22 straight games. They looked unbeatable. They're up 2-0 on the Yankees, needing 3 to win the series, and baseball happened. So obviously they're favorites. I mean, Astros got to be in there. Dodgers have to be in there, but just right now, especially with getting like Darvish late in the year last year, they got Quintana, the Cubs. I mean, just top to bottom with that pitching staff, looks super dominant. And then the Indians, I mean, I'm a big Kluber fan. His nickname's kind of like Klubot because he always just has the same facial expression. There's actually a pretty funny video of like some people on the bench. He's in the middle of the interview and they're throwing like seeds at him and gum at him, and he's just got like a cover of like a rain jacket and he's still straight faced conducting the interview. So I just really like both teams in general, but like obviously the Cubs, it's tough kind of that they've spent a little bit more money and turned it into like more of buying some of their players, but definitely when they first won the World Series, and then a team like the Indians, it would be awesome to see them in the World Series again. So.
Nice. Oh God, what was the Indians player's name? They called him the Donkey. Oh God.
Was it a long time ago or?
No. This was 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Started with the T.
Oh, Tome?
Nope, not Tomei.
Oh, okay.
After him was a slugger as well.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember him in those like Red Sox.
I keep thinking Gronk, but Gronk's the
Yeah.
Patriots.
It wasn't.
tight
It was
end.
like Hafner or something like that, or
I think it was Travis Hafner.
Yeah.
And they used to call him the Donkey or something like
Yeah.
that. And
and he always just would have great years, and then the Red Sox would somehow always get to him. He'd strike out a lot.
yeah.
Tough for Indians fans for sure.
This is Seattle Sports Union, and this is our happy hour show. I just want to bring up to you guys the drink that you've been seeing me sip on. It's a martini, and it's by a Scottish company. It's from the Islay region. It's The Botanist. The Botanist. Great gin. One of my favorites of all time. And, of course, Nathan here is having himself a nice little Sierra.
Yeah, tried and true.
Sierra Nevada. When you don't want to offend, get a Sierra Nevada. Boy, we should make some money off of this. We should...
Yeah, I mean,
We
I
should
didn't even
call-
know. You got me excited if it's from like Isla there. Like I'm a big Scotch fan, so
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know they had gin from there.
You know what's funny is I'm not a Scotch guy. I do love gin. It's kind of like that whole idea of like you're either a clear liquid or a brown liquid fan.
Yeah. And don't mix them.
Never mix the two.
Yeah.
But I think I fall more into the clear liquid
Okay.
fan base. I don't know. Some people can live in both worlds, but
Yeah.
Perhaps
I got the
not me.
whole beer, IPA, drinking a lot of Scotch and whiskey, young generation thing going on. here, so
I
that might
like
change.
IPAs too. I'm just thinking to myself that like with the beer and the beer gut that I have, maybe a little switch to something clear might keep that. Like I get like you're not old enough, but like I get a puffy little feeling in my stomach that too much beer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Doesn't work
getting
anymore.
there a little bit with things like IPAs. Or I used to always joke like, how can anyone have a light beer? What IPA is so good? But I understand a little bit of like a few too many IPAs and your stomach gets a little bit.
Well, you play softball like I do. You also play basketball. Do you hike as well?
A little bit. I probably could do more of that. I'm not a hiker. So.
What I'm saying is like some of those activities, you just can't have an IPA after.
Yeah.
So, when you go hiking, play softball, light beer actually works just fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Back to baseball. So what do you think of the Cubs, though? I mean, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to see the Cubs. It's going to be a madhouse in Vegas. I think that they could definitely make a run next year.
I think they're for me, I look at them as actually a favorite over the Dodgers, just with like picking up Darvish late last year, getting Quintana. I think they had a World Series hangover for sure, which, you know, maybe Vegas, some of that will still exist there. But I just think that a team like that, when they're young, they can be a little bit more up and down, especially with their hitting, but they're just going to keep getting better every year. And Epstein he gets the job done. So
you think you're liking the Cubs over the Dodgers? That's a big statement because the Dodgers are the hands-on favorite, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a Dodgers fan, so it's tough for me to say it, but that lineup there, they even have Hendricks as well, right? Just 4 guys that I would almost call right up there with Paxton or the ace for the Mariners. They have 4 of those, so I just don't see that team unless injuries happen or that kind of thing. I just don't see that team giving up too many losses, and once playoff time comes around, you have that kind of 4-man rotation, and it just seems lights out to me. So.
Excellent. So next Friday, we're going to have another episode of Happy Hour with Seattle Sports Union. Some of us are in a fantasy league, or if you're available, come swing by. I'd like to get your commentary on a live feed for that draft.
Yeah, for
Excellent.
sure.
Excellent. Well, we are Seattle Sports Union. This is Nathan Savage. He's our baseball expert. I am Abraham DeWeese. Thank you for joining us this week. Nathan's got a lot of great articles on our website that is www.seattlesportsunion.com. I do as well. Come check us out. As well, like us on Facebook and check out our tweets at Seattle Sports U. Thank you, everybody, for joining. This summer, we'll start our live show on Sundays. And, we're going to go ahead and continue this happy hour on Fridays. We're going to try to time it before before the Mariners game starts, or in Congress with when that starts. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, guys.